as to the kind of leadership and the command structure which had evolved during ancient days and how the whole thing has led up to what it is right now in the Indian Defence Forces.
I think it's a very broad canvas when you talk of kind of leaders. You will have kings, जिन्होंने आज तक battlefield देखा भी नहीं, but they were managing large empires. And then there were kings who would be the first horse into the battlefield. It is expected from a king that after a while he has to move into statesmanship. So when Ashoka was a young boy, he was not his favorite to become the king, right? And then when his father died, he immediately came, I want to be the king. He turned out to be one of the greatest statesmen. He took care of religion, he took care of taxes, he took care of infrastructure, he took care of new laws. There's a lot of controversy in discussed in many historians that what he wrote as Dharma Yuddha and people try to translate into that Dharma what Buddhism was speaking. He was actually talking कि I have fought this as a Dharma Yuddha.
And उसी हिसाब से हम अब आते हैं psychological warfare पे.
There is nothing better than Mahabharat. Krishna ji played it so beautifully that fine, I'll join them, you take the Sena. That was psychological warfare. When Abhimanyu was trapped and Krishna ji did not tell Arjun that your son is getting killed. That is psychological warfare.
नमस्कार, मैं राघवेंद्र सिंह एक बार फिर भारत की सोच पॉडकास्ट के लिए to this talk on ancient Indian warfare on BharatKiSoch Foundation. We take off from where we had left with Major Manik Jolly on this conversation. Major Jolly, so what is a balanced military composition? What it used to be in the days of yore, and if there is an analogy drawn in the contemporary times?
It's very complicated because you cannot imagine a present day battlefield without Air Force.
Ji.
Forget the modern missiles. Even if we stay 100 years back, let's say World War II, in that also Air Force has started to came and played a big role. So just before that, 20, 30 years back, when there was no Air Force, we will have to imagine that battlefield. Again, when there are types of wars decided,
1857 के आसपास की बात करते हैं.
Since you said 1857, and the first thing I told you, remember 16 years one?
जी.
Right? When the War of Independence was lost, it was the British like to call it a rebellion. It was our first War of Independence. So Savarkar is the one who wrote it as this is the first War of Independence.
Yes.
So when that happened and British came back to Delhi, where we are sitting, in certain areas they killed every male above 16 years. So this 16 makes entrance many times. They actually hazaron bacche.
Yes. I mean the kind of British brutality that was perpetrated post 18 or rather during 1850. It is something which has not been described in sufficient detail.
And it's not been told.
It has not been described.
So I'm not saying you have to hate British. Those were different people and these are present day now. But at least know your history. That's my point. So anyway, we were talking about the battlefield. Military formation, right? When 1526 Lodi came to India, first battle of Panipat, he introduced artillery first time into Indian subcontinent. उससे पहले muskets आ गया था due to French and all that. इधर उधर से we had understood. So during Vedic time, the best formation used to be you have archers, Dhanurvidya, Dhanurdhari, and composition of strongmen leading ahead, and then you had fast-moving swordsmen following them up to do the clean sweep. They were not very advanced in terms of flank maneuvers, cavalry charges, all that. It took a while. Then you move to Ashoka era and all, where when Alexander's army saw the might of 10,000 elephants standing, he said, we are not going there. That was a time when bulldoze was the concept. That you had in Indian concept, we had a lot of elephants that we will bulldoze and break enemy formation. Cavalry will come from flanks and then the infantrymen will go and sweep the area.
So this was innovation of those days,
Yes, sir.
which has constantly evolved,
Evolved.
and continues to evolve,
Yes, sir.
even today,
Yes.
depending on the inventions.
And it will be very terrain based, it will be very weather based, it will be very what equipment do you have, what kind of men you have. So it will be very case to case. But basically, you have to, we understood it 7,000-10,000 years back also, that you have to have something long range that slows down the enemy or kills certain percentage of them before they reach the battlefield. You have to have heavy shields in the beginning so that initial impact is absorbed. And then you have to have very swift moving guys with light weapons who sweep through the haze. And another thing, these guys don't keep fighting 8 hours a day. You fight for 2-3 hours, you come back. You are replaced by somebody because you'll die of exhaustion if not by enemy.
Yes, absolutely.
So the battle never used to be fought as they show in movies कि वो 10,000 लोग आपस में भिड़ गए. वो 2-3 हज़ार जाएंगे, लड़ेंगे, फिर वो देखेगा हम हार रहे हैं, हम जीत रहे, 500 और भेज दो, बोल रहे हैं हम जीत रहे तो इधर भेज. It used to be, because you can't exhaust 10,000.
Incremental kind of thing.
Gaining on your benefits or capitalizing on your gains.
From your,
So,
mistakes.
Pockets में.
And rectifying them. हाँ, जैसे military composition के बारे में हमने बात की, innovation की बात की, in weaponry and strategy, उसी हिसाब से हम अब आते हैं psychological warfare पे. Now, psychological warfare is also a very close auxiliary of what actually happens in a conflict.
Yes.
Now, this is something which has also evolved over the years. Suppose if you have to draw some analogies from our civilizational wisdom, what would your analysis be?
There is nothing better than Mahabharat. It's a reason it's called Granthon ka Granth. And if you want to understand a little bit about warfare, आप महाभारत का सिर्फ युद्ध पढ़ के नहीं समझ पाएंगे, बैकग्राउंड पढ़ना पड़ेगा, आपको पूरी महाभारत ही पढ़नी पड़ेगी, even if in a smaller format. अश्वत्थामा मारा गया, right? So दुर्योधन, he was supposed to be all strong. माता गंधारी जब उनको देखना था, तो कृष्ण जी ने बोल दिया, अबे यार, you'll go naked in front of your mother, first time she'll seeing you. So all these are psychological warfare. When the Kauravas said, हम इनको 1 inch जमीन नहीं देंगे. Obviously they didn't see inch. They were asking for just 5 village Pandavas. Krishna ji played it so beautifully that fine, I'll join them, you take the Sena. That was psychological warfare. When Abhimanyu was trapped and Krishna ji did not tell Arjun that your son is getting killed, right? That is psychological warfare. He wanted him enraged. He wanted to finish the war, and also the mix of destiny and what is happening there and Dharmyod, everything comes together. So Mahabharata is a great place to learn about. Shakni's entire role is psychological warfare. Sri Krishna's role, what he plays in Mahabharata, not Sri Krishna as his life, his role in Mahabharata is psychological warfare.
I'll just want to ask you one question because you've been a defense man and you've also done a lot of reading and writing and done research. Your academic field of interest is national strategic warfare systems, etc. What I want to ask you, sir, is that is there a treatise of this kind, of this antiquity, like Mahabharata is, which talks of so many aspects of warfare? Is there a treatise anywhere else in the world? I hear of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, but some such others which can brook comparison with our own treatise or Adi Mahakavya, as it is called, the Mahabharata.
See, Homer's Odyssey is also considered really great. Writings of Machiavelli.
That is much recent.
So, whatever I can think come across.
And of course, Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Yes, he's a legend, no doubt about that. So, Chanakya, Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, all these guys. And if you go to Roman time, the trinity of Plato, Aristotle, Archimedes, all these, they've written on a lot of things out of which you can pick up stuff on warfare, governance, economy, everything.
So basically,
Nothing matches Mahabharata.
Yes.
Anywhere in the world.
So what I'm actually made to feel by what you've just said during this particular conversation is that our treatises on ancient warfare systems and the various aspects, the myriad aspects which they cover, actually, when they are compared to such treatises civilizationally all across the world, then number one, only a few of them can be counted on our fingers.
And also trying to reach there.
And
they're not even close.
And ours obviously stands out very clearly, and so that also manifests the kind of refinement which had taken place from all angles, from the angle of strategy, governance, economy, because anything and everything feeds into the conflict, isn't it?
Exactly, sir. Right? Exactly. So just one word on Mahabharata. We have failed to tell the value of Mahabharata to the world actually. People, because we are talking about that, if you go into European literature, Russian, the Japanese, old civilization, Chinese, Egyptian, but you will find nothing like Mahabharata there. But we never told the story to the world that look, we have something you all can learn from. It has warfare, it has dynasties, it has politics, it has governance, it has a simple thing of why friendship should be valued. It has sacrifice, it has drama, it has action, it has everything. There's nothing bigger than Mahabharata.
I mean, that is perhaps one of the reasons why these two serials, Ramayana and Mahabharata, have proved to be most popular in our country.
And nobody even made them before that. That's the sad part. They came in 80s, right? I was a kid, I remember. So imagine 40s to 80s, nobody ever thought of making anything. And after that also they've been tidbits. We should be, sir, it is like, I know a good story, I tell you, we laugh about it, we go home. If we have a good story, we need to tell it to the world. India is not only Bollywood and yoga. India is much bigger. And it is my dream they should think of us as these guys are builder of empires. They have built some of the largest empires.
The current world, which is in such turmoil, right, is seeing such seismic geopolitical shifts that sometimes it's mind-boggling. It's incomprehensible. But yet, the whole world is a sum total of alliances and coalitions.
That's true.
You see, that's how they work. Various fields. It could be economic, it could be strategic, it could be cultural, right? And this has been going on since times immemorial. Would you like to talk about alliances and coalitions as far as ancient Indian warfare systems and leading it to the contemporary times is concerned?
Yes, sure. But a few days back, I had written a tweet that if anybody claims to understand geopolitics, it's just, don't make that. So India is friends with Israel, who's not friends with Russia, who's friends with China, who India is not friends with. And we are trying to be friends with the US, who's enemy with China, who's friends with North Korea, who we are enemy, who they are enemy with.
And they are friends with Pakistan and we are enemies with Pakistan.
So nothing makes sense. So we should stop trying. As somebody said, in geopolitics only interests matter. And that was, I think, that was learned thousands of years back also. When it mattered for trade, when it mattered for alliances, when it mattered for marriages, Romans gave their daughter to Ashoka. I mean, I'm fan of wisdom of that time, He said, I will marry your daughter. Her son will never come to the throne. They made them sign the document, then that marriage happened. Rome, entire Europe, eastern coast of Africa, Southeast Asia, through Silk Route, far China, Mongolia. These were the reaches of our trade routes and our spices reaching and all before we were colonized. Then, the British took over. And these were happening. We were, something builders of navy, it's often asked. People don't think India was builder of navy. Shivaji built navy. Cholas built navy as far as when Alexander was retreating. The locals, I'm forgetting the name of the king, they gave him 33 galleys to go through Indus and all. We had navy even then. So all these facilitated our trade, commerce, I think, but historically, all the alliances that were very good that time because of trade or relationship, I don't think any of them survived to modern day. We have Italians coming, writing, they were welcomed by all kingdoms. They used to go back and tell about India. We had Hyun Sang coming, or we had other travelers coming. We had so a lot of this happening. But the coalition was not so much as let's go and fight a war together. It's often limited to trade. You send spice, we send money. You send silk, we send money. That kind of thing. Apart from Jambu Dweep, I don't think we ever allied with anybody to get for our imperialist or colonial tendencies, ideas. Whatever empires were built were very organic and very entire Indian. So I can't think of any coalition which has survived till date. Another part of the reason for that is none of those civilizations existed. We are the only one. The last one can say caliphate was the last technically empire. But they fell
Ottoman
in.
Empire,
Yeah. उनसे हमारा कुछ लेना देना नहीं था except for trade. So I think India is a long-standing guy. However, trade and commerce dictated that we form new alliances. So all our new friends are actually new friends. I mean, Russia, France, Israel, US to some extent. So the present geopolitics is very much shaped post Cold War.
So can I make this general statement that the national interest or the interest of the state then was also the supreme interest, which drove the action which the state then took in ancient times? And even now, our actions are mainly driven by our own interest. Maybe we may succeed, we may not succeed, we may at times be learning lessons, etc. That's a different thing. But obviously, each and everyone has to act in our. So that kind of a awareness has been there since our ancient times.
Yes. So all these, all good kings, all good empire builders have understood that there is a time you have to bow down also. There is a time you have to shake hands with your enemies also. Whether it is Marathas, whether it is Sikhs, whether it is Mauryas, whether it is anybody. When there was time, when they were down, they even served in their courts. They married into them. They accepted their marriage proposals. All this happened because state was primary. Wherever you have a megalomaniac or an ego-driven king, like Nero, he would burn down the damn city. Then he will finish the kingdom. He will finish the empire. And we've had our examples here and there also. People who finished. Everybody sings a lot about Mughal Empire. The last few kings, I think they were changing king every fortnight. Right? Kept fighting amongst each other and they finished it. Because after Aurangzeb, there was nobody. Muhammad Shah came after him, I think. And after 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 5 weeks, this was the period of the king. Because the moment you have a king who is so selfish that he stops looking at the empire is bound to fail. That happened in a lot of other empires also. But coming back to your point, technically, logically, and as is in the written word, a king has to place empire, his people, praja, dharma, everything over and above him. When he loses out that, the kingdom will fail. Or he will lose out in some war or something. So I would say present day, we are pretty much on that line.
Sir, ये जो हमारा जो एंशिएंट वॉरफेयर सिस्टम है, अगर हम उसको एक होलिस्टिक वॉरफेयर ईथॉस के तौर पे देखें, ये जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सिचुएशंस होती हैं, जैसे आज होती हैं, पहले होती थी, जो वॉरफेयर है जैसे आज होता है, जैसे पहले होता था, इसको अगर आप एक संदर्भ में, एक बहुत ही ब्रॉड अम्ब्रेला के तौर पे अगर आप देखें कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सिचुएशंस को, और उसमें जो भी ईथॉस, जिसमें जैसे धर्म का ईथॉस था, इसके बाद जो चाणक्य नीति का जो एक पुट है उसके अंदर वो आया, इसी तरीके से जो ये इवॉल्व हुआ और जहाँ आज पहुँचा है, इसको अगर आप होलिस्टिकली देखें तो पिछले समय से आज तक जो है वो किस तरह की इवोल्यूशन हुई है, उस पर आपकी क्या टिप्पणी है, ये मैं आप कंक्लूड करने के पहले मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ.
So the initially wars were very defense oriented. Let me save my village. Let me save my tribe. Nobody should attack me. I'm happy in my 5,000 square feet. This is my land, this is my crop, everything. So the initial army came with a defensive mindset. Actually, they're not attacking each other, except for some brigands or looter doing something. Right? When the humans realized the value in having more land, more money, materialism stepped in, wars started waging, and then it turned into empire building in a larger scheme of things, or like getting more territory, getting more wealth. So from defense, when attacks started happening, the basic theme was riches, property, territory, luxury, all that. By the time chanakya, so world became very violent. Everybody was fighting with no rules. कोई किसी को कहीं मार रहा था, कोई किसी. The religion made entry back again, जिसको धर्म युद्ध, and they said, yes, it is okay to fight and capture each other's territory, but this is how we will conduct this. Even warfare will have rules. Even warfare will have principles, because we are men of principle. We will fight with principles. So there's a very, you've seen Game of Thrones?
Ji.
So Game of Thrones, and this guy, Tyrion Lannister, she says that you have to fight, and he says, I can't fight. I have to appoint somebody, and Jaime is not there. So he asked this guy, Brian, to fight. Brian tha uska naam? Brown, aise. He will fight for me. So a knight fights for the queen. But he loses. So I really like that dialogue. And she says, you, sir, did not fight with honor. So the guy who died is, for no, he said he did. So that is that is, I think, a awakening movement for our warring contingents, that the enemy does not fight fair. Enemy is trying to poison your wells. Enemy will take away your women. Enemy will kill your children also. There was a very big rule in our Dharma Shastra, or Dharma Sutra. Crops will never be touched. Cattle will never be killed, because they understood the principle कि लड़ाई झगड़ा तो होता रहेगा, लेकिन अगर फसल चली गई, पशु मर गया, तो जीतने के बाद भी हम हार जाएंगे. Hence, these two things were sacrosanct. They were never to be touched. Enemy did not follow this. When siege warfare started, उन्होंने आपके सारे गेहूं के गोदाम जला दिए, पानी में जहर मिला दिया, पानी में सड़ी हुई लाशें फेंक दी. It becomes poisonous. So then the shift moved from a very victory-oriented kind of a thought process, that we have to win. And that is a kind of a baseline of siege warfare also, in a defensive, that we have to win to survive. So winning became very important.
Surviving became very important.
Yeah, so winning became important even without gain of territory or gain of riches. So it became very survival-oriented, because invaders had started coming in. Expansionism was happening, colonialism was happening. Then you move a little more ahead, and then Indian empire also getting into empire building. And then you go for large-scale territory. You go across the borders, across the seas, across the weathers. So even in Ramayana, actually, people don't know that, when Sugriv is explaining the map to Vanar Sena, कि सीता माता की खोज के लिए कहाँ जाना है, he has explained till Arctic Sea to North Sea.
Wow.
He has explained Russia. He has explained Tibet. He has explained the gap that exists from India to South Pole. And he tells, चले जाओगे वापस नहीं आ पाओगे, because of snow will close the passes, all that. We are that precise. So when that happened, the expansionism, entire warfare changed for India also. We were going into getting more territory, building larger, all about riches, and taxation stepped in, hence money, hence it was very commercially driven, everything. And by the time it reached around when 17th century, 18th century, a lot of wars were for independence or throw the outsider out. So the thought process was, we have to fight for our motherland. And the entire wars and battles against the British have been driven by for independence. So the basic theme of why a war has fought has always constantly evolved. In present day, if we fight a war, it will be to capture the occupied territory by Pakistan or defend our own territory or neutralize and finish Pakistan too, because it is the center of terrorism for India and world. So the day we decide isko khatam karna hai, let's do it. That will be the reason for fighting war. Otherwise, there is no riches to be gained. Anyway, there is nothing there, right? That way. There is no territory advantage to India too much that we should fight for territory. But the reasons to wage a war have changed drastically.
Now, the nature of warfare has also undergone a change.
Yes, sir. I'll just take 10 seconds to say that
please.
Since you mentioned nature of war, Op Sindoor was a great example of that. We hit terror bases and we said we stop. आपने हमारे पे आतंकवादी हमला किया, हमने आपके टेरर बेस उड़ा दिए, अब देखो लड़ाई मत करना नहीं तो और नुकसान होगा. They did not listen. Then we took out their air bases. They did not listen. Then we took out their air defense. They did not listen. So we were escalating very incrementally and very methodically, in a very proper fashion. That we'll go only till there and warning you again. Going till there, warning you again. So when they asked for ceasefire, all that happened. But it is a great example of how modern wars are fought and why there can be a theme behind fighting that war which did not exist for thousands of years. There was never a campaign launched by any army, Roman, British, Chinese, anybody, to let's take out a terrorist camp, right? Or let's go inside enemy area and only hit these people and come back. There have been assassin squad, Fidayins have been part of squads, hundreds of years, but that was political assassinations. This is a new kind of war where you're going and taking out something of your own choosing for your well-being. So hence the difference.
मेजर मानिक जॉली, ऐसी कोई भी सत्ता नहीं रही होगी, कोई भी ऐसा एम्पायर या किंग या रिपब्लिक ऐसा नहीं रहा होगा, डेमोक्रेसी व्हाटएवर, मोनार्की, जिसने हमेशा जीत हासिल की हो.
Obviously.
कभी ना कभी तो डिफीट का सामना करना ही पड़ता है. मैं इसलिए मेंशन ये एक चीज़ कर रहा हूँ कि इंडिया के परिप्रेक्ष्य में ऐसा क्या है जिससे कि हमने पहले भी लेसन्स लिए हों डिफीट से अपनी.
आई थिंक मैं सीखा नहीं, यही प्रॉब्लम है. वी नेवर लर्नड कि वो किले का दरवाज़ा अंदर से खुलता है. We never learned that lesson and hence we were hurt time and again.
ये बहुत अच्छी बात कही आपने.
तो we can say
बहुत सहजता से कह दी, लेकिन बहुत बड़ी बात कह दी.
My point is we can learn military tactics, but military tactics तो अगर 10 साल का बच्चा वीडियो गेम खेलना शुरू करेगा, उसकी वीडियो गेम में he is employing all the tactics that are employed in modern warfare actually. That is not the gain actually. The gain should have been ideological. Very few kings or emperors or leaders in India have understood the ideological war. That this is not a war of territory. This is an existential crisis against a raging enemy who wants to capture the entire world. If we have not learned those lessons, and hence we keep suffering. So we are just 75, 80 years old. In the larger scheme of things, it's just a blink, right? We had just been independence. And still we are fighting with this, tiny enemy here, Bangladesh problem kar rahe ho. Why? Because we did not learn lessons from our kings कि you have to be ruthless. Ashoka का दूसरा नाम चंड अशोका था. Such a ruthless guy. He used to make people sit and pour molten copper on them. and he used
that was an ancient form of justice, I suppose.
And he used to sit and watch.
Or as people say, medieval form of justice की तो बात लोग करते ही हैं.
But he built the largest empire, isn't it? That mindset you have to give it to him. That comes from something. So if we do not take hard decisions, if we always trying to keep going,
I would much rather use the word hard than negative word like ruthless.
Okay.
So now to conclude our conversation, and we've had a most interesting conversation and very beneficial, at least to me, because I have benefited from your long years of having researched aspects of various kinds of conflicts, have been part of it in terms of counterterrorism operations. You've also been part of the intelligence setup of our country. But before I conclude, I would ask something which may just end up provoking you.
Okay.
And that's the whole idea, that we should end up on a high note.
Great. Let's do that.
So, as you said a few seconds ago, that our independence has been, like just the other day, it's just about 75, 80 years old, right? But when we became independent, right, strategically, we had lost Northwest Frontier Province, contemporary Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Baluchistan, and 80% of which was the state of Kalat at that time, did not want to go with Pakistan. And it was only in April 1948 that the Pakistan armies moved into Kalat and took over. So Baluchistan, for all practical purposes,
should have been ours.
Had wanted to align with us, but had got no encouragement from our leadership then, right? Despite Jammu and Kashmir having acceded to India a large portion of southwestern Kashmir, the whole of Gilgit, right, and a part of Ladakh is not part of our union.
That's true.
Right? We have divided ourselves through partition in 1947. Otherwise, the huge swathe of territory from Burma onwards to what is UAE, at one point in time, historically speaking, not too far back in history,
not too far.
was still considered one. Mentally, people used to think about this swathe as one. So, if we, and the question is becoming a little longer, but I have to explain this to you, that if we considered our statecraft very mature, which had evolved over time, what happened to our statecraft then, that we incrementally lost all this within a very short period of time, divided ourselves, etc., etc. When last 2000 years, no one had thought of it. Till 7-8 years before, no one had thought of it, right? Before 1947. What happened to the statecraft? Why couldn't it resist losing? In fact, people say that Jinnah got a moth-eaten Pakistan. You know, the same can be said about India.
You took few names, but I would say things were even more complicated that time. Bhopal, Hyderabad, Jamnagar, Gwalior, Northeast. Almost hundreds of princely estate entire Rajasthan had to be brought together into. So Sardar Patel did a fantastic job. Really, the Iron Man of India, and deserves the tallest statue. But again, it will become cliched if I start saying Nehru didn't do a good job, but it is a fact. He's more interested in becoming the PM rather than consolidating the Union of India. Even after when we were there, when Kashmir thing was happened. Now so Nehru did not believe in army. He said, he actually had there's a discussion in one of the books where he said, why do we need army? Police can do the same job. So army did not get that kind of support. Army did not get that kind of arms and armament. Otherwise, 48 was the best time to have taken over Gilgit-Baltistan also. When we were moving, we should have just kept moving. So where does the country suffer actually? It's the political will, always. Right now we are asking the question to PM Modi, why did we stop in Op Sindoor if we had the advantage? Why didn't we take out everything? Why didn't we take the POK? That time we rightfully asked, why didn't Nehru go ahead and take what was rightfully ours, part of J&K? Why did we allow Chinese to get into Aksai Chin till Leh? Thousands upon thousands of soldiers died because they did not have equipment, they did not have weapons. They were fighting in, sneakers actually, tennis boots in sub-zero temperatures. Because it is after 62 that they realized the value of army, and thankfully that's how we won 65 and then 71.
So before we end this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, one final remark from Major Manik Jolly on morale and motivation.
We are descendants of very different people. The morale and motivation for Indian troops, at least before the modern history, medieval history stepped in, was only duty and the confidence that you are defenders of your king, your people, everything and all. Later, once materialism steps in, so again, a great point they were not allowed to loot, they were not allowed to pillage, they were not allowed to rape, they were not allowed to pick up anything that did not belong to them. After that, a step came that fine, you can, because it's a territory or a kingdom or a fort you have won, you can pick up everything. 1/6 of it used to go to the king. The rest of it, 1/6 was to go to the businessmen who helped the fight the war. Then some was distributed to soldiers, some used to go to senapatis. Again, very scientific, very methodical, very, by the law. As things keep moving, our armies also the principles got diluted. But at least I can say for a fact that the empires of Sikhs and empires of even Marathas I'm not saying there were no defaulters, but more or less they did maintain the Dharma Yudh principles to a large extent. When you're fighting amongst, yes, it's a war, it's a very brutal thing, things happen, but overall they did maintain. And Shivaji enforced it, and Guru Gobind Singh enforced it very strongly. So these are two empires I can think of who followed it, even in the modern history age, the kafi, but otherwise by that time, all soldiering was about, making money. Mercenary mode aa gaya tha. When the modern armies came, that principles came back in because people were getting regular salaries. This is a job, and I have, I'm responsible to the Constitution. When I took an oath in Indian Military Academy, I took oath to the Constitution, President of India. I do not take to anybody else, to king or PM or something. So that is what is happening in modern world. Hence, you are more dutiful. It is not that we go on horses and start pillaging Bangladesh.
Thank you. Thank you, so Major Manik Jolly. We've had a very absorbing day of conversation today, ladies and gentlemen. We've covered various aspects of our ancient Indian warfare systems, how the whole thing has evolved civilizationally over time, and what the situation is right now. And we see that even now we have so much to be proud of, our organization of defense, the way we organize it, the kind of traditions we have had, which have come from our civilizational ethos, so to speak. We have talked about the aspect of ethics, we've talked about the aspect of conflict, alliances, diplomacy, we've talked about training, we've talked about command structures. There's just so much to talk about. This whole area it presents to us a bright prospect for further research and in-depth study, something which BharatKiSoch Foundation would take forward for you all and would keep on bringing such interesting conversations with experts to you. Thank you very much. Please do like, subscribe, and share this piece of conversation with others so that we are constantly encouraged to bring more such episodes to you. Thank you very much.